Okay, everyone, let's get underway. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is David Aaron. I am the Marketing Manager for Graduate Apprenticeships here at Heriot-Watt. As you know, today's webinar is focused on our Civil Engineering Graduate Apprenticeship programme. Kicking us off, we've got Dan O'Gorman, he's one of the Business Relationship Managers, and Laurent Galbrun, who's the Programme Director for Civil Engineering. And Dan and Laurent will give us an overview of graduate apprenticeships and the programme itself. We're also delighted to welcome Bradley Garner and John Joe O'Hanlon from our employer partner Story Contracting today. Bradley's a formal civil engineering apprentice and is now the workplace mentor, I believe, for John Joe. So it's great to have them along today to share their experience of graduate apprenticeships. And to round us off, we're also delighted to welcome Elena Rinaldi from ICE Scotland, and Elena is going to give us an overview of professional development opportunities via ICE. Before we start, I'll just cover off some quick housekeeping. Today's session is being recorded. It might be handy if you keep your mics and cameras off during the presentation bit. At the end of the presentations, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions, and you can either do that using the chat function or you can ask your questions out loud. So without any further ado, I am going to hand over to Dan.
Thanks, David. Morning, everyone. As David mentioned, I'm Dan O'Gorman. I'm one of the business relationship managers within the graduate apprenticeship team. So the focus of my role really is engaging with both our current existing employer partners that deliver apprenticeships in partnership with us, but equally working with new potential employer partners, helping them scope out any potential apprenticeship requirements that they might have and kind of helping to bring them on board. So what I'll take you through in this section is more a kind of general overview of what graduate apprenticeships are, how they work, and more specifically, how we deliver them at Heriot-Watt. Thanks, David. So for anyone that's not familiar with graduate apprenticeships, in terms of what a graduate apprenticeship actually is, it's a fully funded work-based learning honours level degree. So it's worth the same as if you were enrolled in full-time 5-day-a-week study at Heriot-Watt. The difference, though, is that this is a work-based learning degree. So yes, you still have that traditional university learning experience where you'll be attending lectures, seminars, workshops, and submitting assignments, completing projects. But equally, you'll also be undertaking work-based learning as a candidate. So the candidates would work 4 days a week for an employer. They'd study 1 day a week with us at Heriot-Watt. And they'd be completing work-based learning that's broadly aligned with the outcomes of the degree program. So it will be activities that they're doing as part of their day-to-day job anyway, writing those up and then aligning them with those work-based learning outcomes. They're part of the wider apprenticeship family in Scotland, so you might be more familiar with foundation apprenticeships or even modern apprenticeships at kind of school or college level. Graduate apprenticeship is the same concept, it's just that it's applied at degree level as opposed to school or college level. They're open to both new and existing employees, so we get businesses that use graduate apprenticeships in order to attract new talent into the business, to create specific apprenticeship vacancies and have people join the business as an apprentice on day one. But equally, they can be used to upskill or even reskill existing employees. So if a business is looking to retain people, develop them, help them maybe transition into a new role, you can utilize graduate apprenticeships in order to do this. In terms of benefits for the candidates themselves, they're able to earn while they learn. So they are still achieving that full honours level degree, but they're able to earn a full-time salary and develop all of that work-based learning experience and experience for their CV while they're doing that. And it is fully funded, so they don't come out with any student debt, and it doesn't cost the business anything to put them through it from a tuition fees perspective. Next slide, please, David. Thank you very much. So how we deliver them at Heriot-Watt, it can look slightly different between different universities as to the exact delivery model and how the programme is delivered to the candidates. We use the day release model at Heriot-Watt. We've always found that's easier for ourselves and our employer partners and apprentices to plan around. So it's 1 day a week that the apprentices would be attending university. On that release day, depending on the time of year, they'll either be in and out of lectures, seminars, workshops, labs, and attending teaching for pretty much the full day. When they've done a lot of their assignments and when they're kind of more towards semester breaks, they might not have as much teaching, but they'll still have that release day in order to kind of build up that work-based learning portfolio, write up what it is that they've been doing, and prepare for any submissions that might still be outstanding. We do also advise that apprentices allow for additional study every week, so around about 4 hours every week on top of that release day in order to kind of build up that work-based learning portfolio. Again, note down what it is that they've been doing and really get that in a place for submission. They'll get a lot of support throughout the process, so they'll have 2 nominated individuals that support them. One of those will be a work-based mentor from the employer. That doesn't need to be their line manager. It doesn't need to be a subject matter expert in the degree program that they're studying on. It just needs to be someone that works closely with that individual, understands what they're trying to achieve in their role, and really can provide that mentoring support. We provide mentor training at the start of each academic year, so that content is all recorded as well, so that if the mentor changes or if the mentor can't make that initial session, we're able to share that material with them. They'll then also get a personal tutor, and that will be an academic from the degree program that they're studying on. And that individual is responsible for keeping them on track academically. And really, the foundation of the apprenticeship itself is that the work-based mentor, the personal tutor, and the apprentice will meet on at least a semesterly basis, and they'll go through what's called their individual learning agreement. And that's essentially a document that maps out what's coming up in the program, what are the learning outcomes that you're going to be focusing on this year, what's coming up at work, what projects are you going to be involved in, what kind of work are you completing as part of your day-to-day job, where's there good alignment, where are you already doing things at work that the university would look for you to evidence through the program, and then where are there gaps and how can those be addressed. So the personal tutor will be able to advise, you might need to be working in this area of the business. The mentor might be able to facilitate that and help that apprentice work with a different team, say for a couple of days to a week, in order to fulfill a certain learning outcome. It's 3 semesters every academic year, so it's about 42 weeks of the year that the apprentice is getting that release day, and it is a 4-year programme of study, so it's no longer than your traditional Scottish undergraduate degree. We do have the option for candidates to come in at year 2 and even year 3 in quite exceptional circumstances, and this would just depend on their qualifications and previous work experience. Next slide, please, David. Thanks. So in terms of the funding, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. These are fully funded from a tuition fees perspective. So as I say, candidate doesn't come out with any debt, and it doesn't cost the employer anything to put the candidate through the programme. There are some eligibility criteria that candidates need to meet in order to be eligible to access the funding. Candidates need to be 16 plus, they need to be living and working in Scotland, so they can't be based remotely while living in England, for example, or vice versa. And they need to either be a UK national or have pre-settled or settled status to live and work in the UK. Provided they meet those requirements, they'll be eligible to access that funding. There are some academic entry requirements as well, but Laurent may well be touching on those later, but typically we'd be looking at hires, HNCs, HNDs in relevant subjects. In terms of recruitment, Heriot-Watt do provide support to our employer partners. There's a few different ways that we can do that. Ultimately, the apprentice is your employee, so we won't get involved in the final decision as to who you decide to hire, but we will provide some support with that recruitment process. So at the earlier stages, it would be support around scoping the job ad, making sure it aligns with the learning outcomes of the program, providing you with information about entry requirements, start dates, the degree program more generally, all to go in the job ad. When it comes to actually advertising, we can help you get the role on apprenticeships.scot, which is Scotland's sort of central resource for all apprenticeship vacancies. We can share the vacancy across our social channels as well, just to help get more visibility on it. And we do run things like our annual graduate recruitment fair. We've got a graduate apprenticeship talent bank, which we can help kind of push potential candidates towards your vacancy. And then ultimately at the shortlisting phase, we can pre-qualify your shortlist. So from an academic and a funding perspective, we can tell you which candidates would likely get onto the program and which wouldn't. so that when you go to interview, you know that all you're really assessing is role and culture fit. You're not worrying about, are we going to select a candidate that ultimately won't get onto the program? So we do provide a lot of support, but as I say, they're ultimately your employee. So up to you as to who you put into that final position. Next slide, David. Thanks. So yeah, last thing from me really, just again to reiterate that message that graduate apprenticeships are there to both recruit new talent into the business, fill any skills gaps that you might have or any kind of resourcing gaps that there might be within the business, but equally they are there to support the development of existing employees. And that piece is really quite straightforward from the university's perspective, because if you come to us with a candidate, we can tell you whether they're eligible and then help you get them enrolled if they are. So there's that upskilling piece to maybe take people that are within the business who have maybe reached a certain point in their career, and this will help them take that next step. Equally, there's that reskilling piece as well for people that are transitioning into a new role, and that retention piece, and that does apply to both upskilling existing employees, but equally recruiting new people into the business. It does help employers retain their employees and keep people on board, again, as whether they come through as a new recruit or as an existing employee. So I believe that's everything from me. So I'll hand over to Laurent.
Good afternoon. I'm Laurent Galbrin. I'm the Program Director for Civil Engineering. So why would you come to Heriot-Watt for civil engineering? Heriot-Watt has a long-standing reputation in civil engineering. We have some statistics here. So we're first in the UK for building, top 15 in the UK for civil engineering, first in Scotland and second in the UK for graduate employability, and the program has been accredited by JBM for a very, very long time now. So with the graduate apprenticeship, you would be fully meeting the I-Eng requirements and partially meeting the C-Eng requirements, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. Next slide, please. So in the next few slides, I'm going to discuss first entry requirements, provide some general information about the program, and then I will go through the program structure to give you an idea of how we run the program. I'll discuss work-based learning in practice, and I'll finish with the accreditation. So in terms of entry requirements, we have the year one entry requirements listed here. So it is Scottish SQA hires, 2 A's and 2 B's, or 4 B's and a C. Mathematics is desirable but not essential. For A levels, it's A, B, C grades or 3 B's. This is year one. For year two, the most common route has been in the past years an HNC in civil engineering with an A in the graded unit. But we would be looking at applications. We would consider as well prior experiential learning, so work experience. So we would look at all that, and we can make a good decision based on that information. Next slide, please. So in terms of the program, the civil engineering apprenticeship has been developed to produce high-quality graduates with the understanding, knowledge, skills, and personal qualities required to undertake a wide range of roles across the construction industry. So you come into the program, and what is going to be different compared to other junior engineers or technicians in the company, that you're going to be exposed to a very wide range of topics, and you will get all that expertise by the end you finish the degree. In terms of subjects, you would expect in any civil engineering degree to cover the following: so structures, geotechnics, materials, hydraulics and hydrology. There are also some math courses, and embedded within those you have the topics such as environmental engineering, sustainability, as well as management. And throughout the courses, you'll develop problem-solving skills. There'll be quite a lot of design with specific courses about design. Develop analysis skills. There'll be some teamwork. You will develop your writing skills as well as professional skills. And overall, you're going to have a mix of theory and practice. And being an apprenticeship in particular, there's going to be a large section of the work that will be work-based learning. You'll also have some coursework for on-campus courses as well as exams, so in-person exams. Next slide, please. So I just want to go through the structure of the degree and explain a bit how we operate. So what you see here, there's 3 semesters. So let's take year 1. In semester 1, which is September to December, you will be doing Mechanics A. In semester 2, which is January to beginning of April, you will be doing Mechanics B. These are what I call the on-campus courses. So you do those on your day release. So year 1 and year 2, it's the Friday. So on the Friday, you come to university, you attend lectures, tutorials, and these are done together with on-campus students. So everything is provided from the academics. There is no work-based input into those courses, but you can see that running parallel to those 2 courses, there are 6 work-based learning courses in year 1. So what are work-based learning courses? Basically, those courses exist also as on-campus courses, but you do not attend classes or tutorials. Instead, you still have access to all the course materials. We have our online portal, Canvas, where you can access course notes, slides, and so on. But very much you need to write reports that meet the learning outcomes of the course and bring in some work-based evidence that can effectively show how you apply some of this within your day-to-day work. I'll explain a little bit later by showing some documents that are used for all the work-based courses. I'll explain how you can write those reports. Semester 3, there is no formal teaching. You submit all your work-based reports then. And then the other thing to note, you see a difference between year 2 and year 1 in terms of the number of courses we do on campus. That's very much because the mechanics courses in year 1 have a lot of contact time. So we decided to have just 1 course per semester because there are quite long tutorials and lectures for specifically Mechanics A and Mechanics B. How did we choose which courses to be on campus, which courses to be work-based learning? We decided that the most theoretical courses should be on-campus courses, so the ones with a lot of hand calculations. And you see, for example, in year 2, the math courses, determinant structures, and you'll see in later years more advanced topics as well. Quite theoretical are all on-campus courses because they were very difficult to achieve through work-based learning. The work-based learning courses tend to be a bit more general and more easily achievable through work-based examples. We can go to the next slide. So in year 3, you get into more advanced topics, like from year 2 where you had determinate structures, you now have indeterminate structures, design of steel elements, design of concrete elements, geotechnics A. So as you would expect, you start from fairly general courses in the earlier years and develop towards more advanced courses. For year 4, I want to highlight in particular the design project and the dissertation, which are a bit different. The design project, you're given a brief and you apply the knowledge that you have learned across the 4 years of the degree. The dissertation is an original research project. We always encourage apprentices to propose their own title. It should be something that is of interest to them and to their company, and they can work on that. It's the equivalent of a double credit course, so it's the equivalent of 2 courses effectively. So these 2 courses stand out a bit in year 4. Can go to the next slide. So these are examples of what we call course specification documents. So each work-based learning course has one such document, and on the first page you have the list of learning outcomes. So if I take as an example surveying and monitoring on the left, we have 3 main sections: land surveying, measurement and monitoring, and use of information technology. And we have specific bullet points under each section. And effectively, when an apprentice writes a report, we expect them to very much mirror the learning outcomes given in the course specification document. So to be able to discuss those topics, they will need probably to read some of the course notes, and they need to have some academic writing, describing the topics, referencing academically. So there is all this academic element that shows their understanding of the topics, but then they bring in examples from work to illustrate the concepts. And what's really important from an apprenticeship point of view is that it's not just providing evidence of activity, it's actually demonstrating understanding. So being critical in the analysis. If you bring in an example from work, You should be able to discuss why did you do things in that way and not another way. What were the options? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each of the options you had? And that's how you really demonstrate your understanding. We don't really have time to go into details of how these reports are written here, but a lot of support is provided at the beginning of the academic year on how to write those reports. We would have that initial meeting with each apprentice and each workplace mentor to discuss each course. The important thing to note is that there will be cases where there will be gaps. So things you do not do at work, that's to be expected. We would then find alternatives. So in some cases we provide coursework. In other cases we tell you to do some online searches and find some relevant examples as long as you can have that critical discussion. That's how you demonstrate your understanding. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about work-based learning. I said that you come one day a week to university for your courses. The remaining 4 days you are with your employer. There is an expectation that you will actually work or do university work while you are with the employer. Our recommendation is half a day a week. We cannot enforce that. That's just a recommendation. So it could be an hour here and there. It could be a full day over 2 weeks, or it could be a block of time. Sorry, there is. Okay. Sorry, there was just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going on.
So yes, so this half a day is up to the employer to decide, how they use it. There'll be regular meetings with the personal tutor, the apprentice, and the work-based mentor. And we have a very important meeting at the beginning of the year, and that's where we develop what is called the individual learning agreement. So it's a work plan to decide effectively what has to be done for each of the courses. Next slide, please. So as I said, the program is accredited by the Joint Board of Moderators, and you effectively get the educational basis to apply for incorporated engineer status. You also have partial, you meet the partial requirements for CEng status, but you need to do an extra year of studies to actually be able to apply then for chartered engineer status. And I think that's all from me.
Thanks, Laurent. Dan, Bradley, John Joe, can you guys put your cameras on? Dan, how do you, I think it worked well last week with the Diageo. So maybe if I stop sharing, we just do the Q&A with the cameras on. That work okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Okay, I shall. Okay, I'm glad that happened before we started. Right, I shall stop sharing and then I'll over to you guys for the Q&A. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks, David. Perfect. So just to get us started then, Bradley, John Joe, I might jump between the two of you a little bit depending on the question themes. So just bear with me, but hopefully it won't be too confusing for you. But Bradley, if I can start with you, can you just tell us a bit about your background at Story?
Yeah, no worries. So I've worked at Story now for 5.5 years, give or take a few months. I was previously a trainee engineer going through the graduate scheme, which has been very beneficial to my career, I believe. I'm now a site engineer since graduating in December of 2024. So like now my main responsibilities are site setting out, controlling levels and stuff on site, as well as completing all of our quality information, controlling document control, ensuring we're following designs to the specifications we're given, as well as just general health and safety files and RAMS documentation.
Great, thanks, Bradley. And just if I can ask the same of you, John Joe, can you just tell us a bit about your background at Story?
Yeah, so before I started at Story for the 3 years prior, I was working as a modern apprentice manufacturer engineer in the aerospace industry, actually. So I really like the kind of engineering aspect of the job, such as like reading drawings and finding solutions to problems that were presented in work. But I never really seen much of a kind of future in that industry. So because I liked the engineering side of it so much, I was kind of looking at what other engineering fields are out there and what kind of really interested me. So that was kind of what pushed me towards the civil engineering industry specifically.
That's great. Thanks, John Joe. And then I suppose just kind of leading on from that, what inspired you to undertake the graduate apprenticeship? You sort of touched on that a little bit, but yeah, if you can just expand on that.
Yeah, so like I said, I was really keen to get into the civil engineering industry and specifically to go to university to study. So having already worked as an apprentice for a few years, I found it for me personally, the kind of working alongside the studying worked really well for me. So that was kind of learning stuff one day a week, going on day release, and then being able to apply that in the workplace. I thought that really helped me in terms of what I was doing in my job and kind of take in the studying as well a lot better. So for me, the kind of graduate apprenticeship scheme seemed like a perfect fit.
Yeah, quite a nice example of the apprenticeship family kind of working as intended there in terms of you having done the MA, getting used to that balancing work and study, and then the graduate apprenticeship then is kind of a bit of an easier transition. Keeping with that theme then, Bradley, obviously you mentioned you're a graduate apprentice yourself. Can you just expand a bit on your kind of motivations to follow your own graduate apprenticeship journey there?
Yeah, so similar to John Joe, but I actually went into graduate apprenticeship straight from school. I left in fifth year and went straight into it. Again, I just the idea of getting real life experience and, to be honest, earning money whilst I was studying, it just appealed to me more than doing full-time study. So yeah.
Yeah, just that balance of being able to develop and it, kind of, as you say, the reality of being able to earn as well, because
Yeah.
it is a very different picture as if you had studied full time for 4 years and then kind of begun your career.
Yeah, and then, yep.
Okay, so I think we'll probably slightly diverge now, given John Joe, you're still a current apprentice, and Bradley, you're maybe more representing the employer's side of things. So John Joe, can you just tell us a bit about your current role and how you find balancing work with kind of studying towards your degree?
Yes, so my current role at Story is as a trainee engineer. So a typical day in the workplace would maybe consist of working out on site alongside the site engineer. So that would be kind of setting out on site and reading drawings and working with the guys that are working out on site. And then on top of that, kind of office-based work. So that's ensuring that all the kind of paperwork that goes alongside what's happening on site is up to date and correct. And in terms of managing work and study, I think I've managed that really well so far. Story are a really supportive employer, so whenever I've got downtime in work, they are more than happy for me to kind of crack on my uni work, and then specifically when exam season comes round, they're happy for me to take a few extra days before exams to just solely focus on the studying.
Yeah, that's good. Sound like a very supportive employer, and I suppose that probably chimes with your experience as well, Bradley.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're very supportive. Like, it's kind of quite open to when you need time, you'll get time. It's very seldom that you won't. So
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And that kind of answers the next question I was going to ask you, really, John Joe, which was around the support that you've got from Story while you've been doing your graduate apprenticeship. But in terms of the university, could you just touch on the support you've got from the university and maybe those two interacting?
Yeah, so I think, like Laurent said, there's the courses that you do in person and the work-based learning. So with the work-based learning, there's not much, there's no contact between you and the lecturers, but from my experience so far, they're more than happy for you to reach out over email or to arrange in-person meetings whenever you're in university. So for me, it's on a Friday. So from that aspect, I've not had any issues. And then I think Lauren said as well, at the start of the year, I was assigned a work-based mentor and a personal tutor. So I have quarterly meetings with both of them to discuss any results or feedback that I've received so far throughout the year. And then during this meeting, that allows me to set goals to achieve before the next meeting. So that kind of gives me a vision of what I need to try and achieve before the next meeting.
Yeah, so it's really about having that kind of triangular relationship between the university, yourself, and the organization as well.
Yep.
Okay, where shall we go next? Sorry, Bradley, I will bring you back in a second, but I think we'll stick with John Joe
no
because
worries.
the themes are running into each other quite nicely here. So on that theme of kind of those individual learning agreement meetings, working out the kind of work that you'll be doing over the coming months or over the next semester. How do you find you're able to apply your learning in the workplace, and can you maybe give us an example of that?
Yeah, so I've only started the story in August, so obviously I've not been with the company for too long, but I found it, like I kind of touched on earlier, that working on site 4 days a week and having that one university day, I think that it really works well, because the things you're learning at university, it's maybe making you think about what you're doing on site a bit differently and giving you a kind of greater appreciation for it and understanding of why it's happening. And then maybe for a specific example, one of the courses I'm taking just now is civil engineering materials. So from my experience before that, it was just concrete is concrete, but kind of doing this course, I've understood, the different type of concrete mixes you can get and why you would use different concrete mixes for specific purposes. So that means that when I'm working on site and we're either ordering concrete or concrete is being delivered, I can kind of have a greater understanding, appreciation of why that specific kind of concrete mix has been chosen.
So there's more to concrete than meets the eye, then, is
Yeah.
the message there. But no, that's a good example, and that's a good example of being able to apply that learning in kind of real time. Whereas I suppose if you did a traditional degree, you'd maybe learn that in year one, and then when you got into your first role, you'd be kind of trying to consult your notes and remember why you'd use different types of concrete in different scenarios. Bradley, to jump back to you then, from Story's perspective as an employer, could you just tell me a bit about the kind of key drivers for the business choosing graduate apprenticeships as a kind of talent strategy, I suppose?
Yeah, so I think like Story contracting's the apprenticeships kind of aim to address a skill gap in the industry, and it provides a bit of a better pathway for individuals to gain experience whilst getting their degree at the same degree as a full-time student. And again, going back to like it allows people to earn money whilst they're doing the same degree as a full-time student. Typically, as Lauren said earlier, 4 or 5 years at uni. And yeah, just like we at Story kind of get our apprentices actively involved in a lot of stuff, so we'll give them a bit of responsibility to go out and kind of do site setting out themselves. We'll allow them to do some takeoffs, look at drawings, kind of learn what materials we need and let them do it themselves. Like obviously we'll do checks just to make sure, but yeah, like we kind of give them a bit of responsibility to get them more confident, I suppose, in their role for when they finish uni.
Yeah, so you're getting them to be productive members of the organisation, which is interesting, because I think that's often the perception from outside for some employers, is that actually we're going to need to train someone for 4 years before they're productively contributing to the business, but that's not necessarily the case across a lot of employers, and it sounds like that's the same for Story.
Yeah, so I think it kind of gets to the point where once they're finished their graduate apprenticeship, they are kind of ready to just go into the site engineer role or whatever role they are going into, and just that's them sorted, and they're kind of quite confident in that role themselves. The support's still there from everybody, but they're normally quite independent.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then I suppose as a follow-up on that theme, what is it about the Heriot-Watt civil engineering program specifically that suits the business?
I think it works really well in tandem. So Story have their own kind of graduate scheme for apprentices coming in, where we kind of put them through. They'll do X amount of time on site, being kind of site engineer, and then they'll go and do secondments in, say, our commercial team or our geotech team or our planning team or some, such like. And it kind of, their work-based learning reports work in tandem quite well with our graduate scheme in that sense. So it kind of helps them, I think, relate back to, like, it helps them relate their work life back to their uni reports and, what they're studying.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, Bradley. David, how are we doing for time? I'm conscious I've got a few questions left, but I think some of them might have been answered by John, Joe, and Bradley already in other questions. So I'm just thinking what to focus
Yeah,
on?
I think you've got a couple of minutes, Dan. That's fine.
Couple of minutes, okay. So I think you've touched on a few of these other questions here with your other answers. So what I'll probably end with, and I'll come to both of you on this. So John Joe, sort of two questions in one. Could you just describe, I suppose, how would you describe your GA experience so far? And equally, what advice would you give to someone that was thinking about undertaking a graduate apprenticeship?
Yeah, so far I would say I've really enjoyed my GA experience. I think before starting with Story, I didn't really have any experience on a construction site, but being able to work 4 days a week, it's given me a really good introduction to the industry, and that's allowed me to kind of develop confidence in the practical skills that I'm needed to work as a site engineer, because I'm out doing them all the time, working alongside the site engineer. And having very little knowledge about the construction industry before starting, I think that working out closely with the site engineer and my managers and other colleagues, they've been really good at explaining what's happening, and if I've got any questions, I'm more than happy to take the time to kind of explain what's going on and why things are happening to me on site, sorry. And I think that for anyone that's considering studying civil engineering at university, I think it's really worth looking into the graduate apprenticeship scheme, because the opportunity to gain real life work experience alongside studying is, I think, invaluable, and it kind of makes you realise what the expectations are and responsibilities that you will have once you're a qualified engineer, and you know what will be expected of you once you do qualify.
No, that's great. Thanks, John J. Yeah, really good to get your kind of first-hand insight on that. And then similar, Bradley, I suppose just to end on this, what advice would you give to other employers that are thinking about taking on apprentices, and ultimately would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would say I would definitely recommend it. I think they just need to consider two things, like two main things. Can they satisfy the needs of the apprentice, e.g., can they give them the support? Can they allow them time to study? Can they cover most of the stuff that they're learning in uni? And then also, what benefit does the apprentice actually bring to that company? You know, in terms of, if like, will they be an independent worker? Will they be able to do the role better than I say if you were to just come straight out of uni as a graduate? Like, is that a benefit to them? I think, yeah, I think overall though, I would definitely highly recommend the scheme to anyone. I think it gives them a kind of a boost, a head start in their career, gives you 4 or 5 years experience whilst you're at uni, and then once you finish uni, then you've already got that experience. You already know what your roles and responsibilities are. You know what your day-to-day looks like, and you've already got a team that you'll know and you're working with, and yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Bradley. I think that's it for the Q&A for now, David.
Yeah, nice one. Listen, thanks, guys. That was really great insight there. So thanks, John Joe. Thanks, Bradley, and thanks, Dan, for facilitating that. So we're now going to move over to Elena, and she is going to talk us through professional development opportunities with ICE. So if I just share my screen again, Elena, just a sec. Over to you.
I'm muted, just realized. Thank you for this invite. And I'm here to talk from the institutional engineer, the last bit of this great journey, really, which is a degree apprentice. So you heard about the apprentice himself from the employer, the university. Doing this program will help you also achieve professional qualification with the institution of civil engineers. So I add that last bit of information. If you move on, next slide. I don't know if I can control it. Yeah, just a bit about the institution. For those of you who might not know it, it's the world's most established civil engineering professional body. It goes as back as 200 years, and it is the voice of civil engineering and infrastructure from all around the world. Next. It stands for, it is a hub, a lobby, if you want to say, of all things civil engineering and infrastructure, and it's all over the world. You want to move? Next. Yeah, you can see all the various things that happen to civil engineering, and it is the interest of the institution to have a good pipeline of people that will one day continue the agenda, continue to promote with government and the whole civil engineering society, all the issues that are so key, so important to our society that civil engineering can resolve. Next. So the institution shares learning, qualifies engineers, and it, with the members offers trusted, impartial advice to politicians and decision makers. The shared learning. So for apprentices, also they can students can tap into what is there available. The apprentices that we outlined, the path of whom we outlined today, can then become professionally qualified, and then with their knowledge become themselves a part of the institution of civil engineers, and they have continued this charitable, the institution is a charitable organization, mission of offering trust, impartial advice, and bring the agenda of the civil engineers and infrastructure to politicians and decision makers throughout the world. Next. All on the basis if you say why does the institution has a mission, it was set 200 years ago, and nowadays of course it completely is based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal as the guiding principle. Next. How does one become qualified? There was some question there in the chat before. So one needs an academic qualification, then needs a period of experience, which is we call in IPD, initial professional development. Once that is finished and is completed, then candidates come forward to professional review. Next. The way the institution supports all this is through the accrediting degree, the Joint Board of Moderator. You heard that, which is before in the presentation. The degree apprenticeship is an accredited degree, and then the experience based on the 7 attributes and CPD. So that's the evidence, and then people come forward and they bring the portfolio of evidence. The advantage of the degree that we talked about is that the first box and the second box are combined. So the apprentices come out of the program with the first and second box ticked, because a lot of their requirements are mapped against the IC 7 attributes. Next. It's a bit of the same. What can you get in terms of professional qualification? EngTech, iEng, NCEng, MICE. You have heard that the program we talked about is accredited for iEng, which is fantastic. In corporate engineer, member of the Institution of Civil Engineers. For those who want to progress, there are many ways to top up. One of them was at line with an extra year at university, but it is not the only way. Yep, next. Those are the 7 attributes of members. So as you can say, the program of apprentices has been outlined. All various things that the apprentice acquire and the skills they acquire on the work during their work experience will fall into one of those 7 attributes, and they'll be mapped against that. They're very much common sense. If anyone was to outline or describe the skills required from a professional civil engineer, there'll be those 7. They won't be far from naming those 7. Next. Why is it so important? Well, the competence, the institution is the lobby that wants to make sure that there is quality control over the professional, and has that a vested interest in that, but also for the individual becoming professional qualified increases status, greatest prospect, the progress in a career, and professional recognition is also known to bring more money, and the opportunities are global. Next. We give advice to students in terms of what they can do. The apprentices that you talk about, that we here today to celebrate and promote, have a lot on. compared to your full-time students that are outside of apprentices. So a lot of the opportunities tend to be for them within the employers. So employers, we recommend providing those in terms of the training that is done within in-house. They often presentation from manufacturer and so on. But nonetheless, this is the page that we have up in our webpage for students in general. Next. Next, well, these are just an example of activities that we suggest that students can use to complement their curriculum. They're small tasks and they can be done to boost their CPD. There'll be videos, watch the institution history for that, or some other things that they can get involved, panels and so on. Next. We have a program of enrichment activities that students, and with those we also, of course, include apprentices that complement what they are learning both at university and at work. We call it IC University Series. Keep an eye on that. We go deep into topics such as sustainability, commercial things, professional conduct, and digital transformation. There is the student members of the ICE can join, student and graduate can join the local network of graduates and students. Next. We provide career talks every month so that people can, or students can potentially see the various roles out there. And there's an IC career guide that's going to be soon into an app. Next. I think we'll skip that because what we really want the apprentices to do is, and the employers to offer, it's an IC training scheme for the apprentices. So so that everything, as they progress through their records, their learning outcome, or everything they do on a work basis, that is progressively matched online, lodged into the IPD online, with the help of a supervising civil engineer, so that as they do all that work and they have such expedite route into professional qualification, that is lodged into the IPD online system, and therefore their initial professional development is monitored, progressed, and everything they do, it's also validated towards the professional qualification of the ICE, because it can. Next. Of course, it's not only IPD online, but also the CPD records that any member of the ICE has to maintain. It's continual professional development where people log their the training that they've done, and having also objectives for the year in a personal development plan. Next. We'll skip that, because these are just examples of how normal students logged their experience, but apprentices have are in employment, so they have already very targeted experience, and these examples are in some ways below what they can what can they tell us. Oh, something's gone wrong a little bit in the format there. For what does IC do to support the students? We actively support as an institution by bringing all these opportunities, because they're such important key in the pipeline into industry, and the apprentices are absolutely key part of that. We want to create, while they're with the employees, a sense of belonging to the civil engineering community. We want to assist them and assist the departments such as Heriot-Watt, which is an ICE academic partner, so that we can identify what is required. And if you employer have speakers that want to talk to students and apprentices about what the role that they do, that's the QR code for the application. Next. That's the support in Scotland, Donna Surgener, that's her email address, if you ever need any further questions after this. Next, now we go a little bit into the regional things. What can the apprentices do, and what does the IC offer so that they can integrate all that they do? The James Rennie Medal is an opportunity to see the best candidate of the ICE. They can watch this online, and it's a great presentation. And every year there are 3 shortlisted, and it's a fantastic thing. Next. If they are entitled to be student members, and that is free of charge. That's a QR code on how they apply. They can also, if they are in employment, choose to be graduate member instead of student, but that won't be free. Next. I just mentioned that there's a career talk held every year, and I say that because they can first watch it and see what roles are out there described by their peers, but also in the future, once they complete their apprentices, be themselves the speaker for the ICE. Next. Again, free student membership, we mentioned that. That is just the sign-up form. Next. There is our award, which I think is very good it's a good opportunity for those who are both in work and studying. It's a prestigious awards for for those who are students and graduates can apply, and they can showcase engineering ideas or gain recognition. Obviously, the apprentices have projects and they have concrete examples that they can use for this award. So they can find out more through this QR, and I very much recommend that they have a look, and it needs to be done before the 7th of April. Something's gone slightly off with the format, so apologies for that. The QR code are covering it. But the deadline is the 7th of April, and take note of that email address, because that here in Scotland, everything I say or any other organization or opportunities you might want to find out about, that's the email address that you should be looking at. Next. This comes directly from the Scottish team, here directly from political figures about the priority of a Scotland economy and so on. Clearly, ICE must be hosting a debate or something, and that is the QR code if you're interested in that. Next. And that's another example of the knowledge events that one can take advantage of, local, and I'll leave these slides, of course, with David, who has them. So if they want to, anyone attending wants to pick up on that, the information is there. Next. There's a knowledge hub for anything else that people want to pick up on. Next. And that's it. That's the end of a presentation. I promised David I was going to be quick. I hope I have been, and give you a taster of the opportunities there and what is at stake. So professional qualifications at the end of the journey, and lots of opportunities for knowledge and along the way. Do many GA go on to become graduate members of the IC? Yes, I don't have the stats but sorry, David, I've just read myself the question. I shouldn't have done that. But yes, in general, apprentices have a very high, what shall we say, conversion rate or so on, because they already are in that mentality of working. And therefore taking the next step, which is professional qualification after their academic qualification. Do you find more? Shall I read this? Yeah, I'll leave you to manage the question.
Listen, you take control. Listen, before going, thanks very much for whizzing through that, just for everybody's benefit. So yes, Alina says I have the slides, so these will obviously be sent out post-event, because there's a lot of information on there with lots of links and QR codes. So yeah, you'll have access to all of those if you're interested in signing up for any of those things that Elena ran through. Thanks again, Elena. So we just have we've got a couple of minutes left just for questions. So Craig has asked a question there earlier on about how many GA places are available at Heriot-Watt per year.
So we normally aim to have around 20 new GAs every year, and really it varies year on year. But you know, if you're thinking of having GAs at Heriot-Watt, please do apply. Please do. It's, you know, the competition is not so much with us accepting the GAs. The competition for the GAs is to secure a position within the company. Once they've secured a position and the company wants to put them onto the apprenticeship program, and we have already told you that they meet the requirements, that's, you know, pretty straightforward by that point.
Yeah, and I'd maybe just add on the end there as well, as a business relationship manager, if you're coming at it from the employer's perspective, do just reach out to us. You can contact us at our inbox, which I think will be in the slides, David. It's ga@hw.ac.uk.
Yes.
And myself or any of the other business relationship managers can take you through the kind of setup process for that, whether, again, it's for recruitment or upskilling.
Yes, correct, Dan. Yes, so those details will be on the slides.
And if I can just add a bit about the previous question, so is it more consultants or contractors? So we've had over the years more than 30 companies that have given us GAs, and it's a really big mix, from the large consultancy companies to more local companies. I would say overall maybe a bit more engineering consultancy companies, but we get also quite a lot of contractors. So it's very much a mix.
Yep. And then just Craig said a wee follow-up question there. Do most of the GAs stay on and complete the full course?
So do you mean once they start the degree, do they stay on? Well,
so.
by and large, yes. I would say whenever I have a discussion with a prospective applicant, I always tell them you're embarking onto something that, you know, to be honest, is quite challenging. So you need to be ready to do that. You're going to be working and studying at the same time. So they're told, you know, what are the expectations, and those who really find it too difficult, they typically leave very soon at the very beginning. They realize, oh, that's too much for me. And literally within the first semester, normally they drop out. Everybody else stays. And we've had now, I think, 5 cohorts already of graduates. They've done really well. Some cohorts do really, really well, outperform, I would say, the on-campus students. So by all means, you know, it is successful. It can be done. It is, however, a route that requires, you know, a lot of commitment from the apprentice, because it's a lot to take on. As long as they know what they're embarking on, you know, it's very rewarding because they do work, earn money, get a degree by the end of it. So, you know, all apprentices on graduation day, they say, oh, I definitely chose the right thing. I'm really glad I did this.
Yep. Nice one. So we're probably at time, unless MD's got a very final question, we could probably wrap it up there. Just when we're doing that, just to say, so yes, we have the recording of the session today, so we'll get that sent out along with a copy of the slides. And just from me, finally, thanks to Laurent and Dan from the Heriot-Watt team, John, Joe and Bradley from Story, thanks so much for your time today. And Elena, thank you again for your whistle-stop tour of ICE Scotland and all that brings. Thanks again to everybody for joining us today. Much appreciated, and enjoy the rest of your day.